So, cost to acquire a customer, aka CAC. Let's dive in. Cost to acquire a customer again. So, let's start with definition. All right, cost of acquiring a customer, all the costs required to sell a new customer. So that's the advertising dollars, the payroll to a media buyer, creative team, software that the team uses to make advertising and sales commissions, salaries, the managers of those teams, everything that it costs you. So a lot of people, and if you want, you can delineate how much does it cost if you use paid ads, for example, how much it costs us in media spend versus how much is our, sometimes people call it fully loaded CAC. You can have both those numbers separated out, which I think is wise. It's kind of like media CAC versus fully loaded. But at the very basics now, that only really applies to paid media. If you acquire customers via outbound, payroll is going to be the majority of your CAC. If you use content to get customers as your primary acquisition method, then it's just going to be the cost of the payroll for the team that does all the distribution of content and editing and whatnot. But most companies, especially if you're bigger, are going to have multiple different versions of that, which is why you just look at everything and you look at how many customers you got, you divide it out, and you're like, that's our cost per customer. So if we're trying to get unlimited customers, we better be sure we know what our own costs to make sure that we can actually pay for it so that we can get unlimited new customers. All right, so let's calculate it together. So if you use outreach as your primary way of getting customers, then you use, let's say, $200 a month in email software, and you pay someone $3,000 a month to do cold email prospecting for you, then emails become appointments that turn into 8 sales per month. And so then you pay your salesperson $100 per sale. So then what's CAC? All right, this is like a ChatGPT prompt word problem. But fundamentally, this is what it looks like for you as a business owner. So this is how we calculate it. So the total cost for 8 sales means that you have a $3,000 emailer plus a $200 software plus $800 in commissions, which is the 8 sales times $100 equals 4 grand. All right. So now we divide that by the number of new customers, which is $4,000 divided by 8 new customers equals $500 per sale. So CAC is $500 in this outreach example. So let's say that you have a content business. So let's do this one. So you have to pay 2 people in your media team that you pay $5,000 a month each, and they help you make, edit, and distribute content across all platforms, right? So that content then turns into inbound messages and then opt-ins on your site, and then those leads turn into 10 new customers, and you pay $100 in commission per sale. All right, so what's CAC? So the reason I'm giving you all those stats is so that you can plug your own stats in and then figure this out for yourself. So if my media payroll is 5K times 2, it's $10,000 a month there. My commissions is 10 sales times 100 is 1,000. So all in, I got 10 grand plus 1 grand is $11,000. So my cost to acquire a customer, we'll say, is $11,000 divided by 10 customers equals $1,100. So my CAC's $1,100. Now, if some of you are like, wait, I have sales payroll in there too, then add it in. If there's something that you don't have here, cut it out. But fundamentally, it's just all the money you spend to get new customers divided by how many customers you got. Cool. And I'll do one quick one on paid ads. So you spend $4,000 a month on a media buyer. You spend 20 grand in buying ads, the actual media itself. You spend $1,000 commissions per sale, so this is probably a higher ticket sale. And you spend $1,000 in software and tracking and following up with the leads that come in to get 10 new customers. So what's CAC? So media, 4K, media spend, 20K, software, 1K, commissions, 10 times 1, 10,000. So all in, you spend $35,000 divided by 10 customers, $3,500 per customer is our CAC. That's how this works. By the way, one of the best ways to improve any metric is to start measuring it. So, how to improve it? In this whole training, I talk about lots of different things that cover and check off different boxes here. But fundamentally, if you had nothing else and you just need to have a cheat sheet for this, it would be you make better offers, that gets you higher response rates. And if you make better offers, you're also going to convert a higher percentage of people. More people are going to take the next step. If you have better offers in general, your CPMs are also going to go down because people are like, oh, this is a better offer. Great. You'll have cheaper labor. So you won't necessarily, this is not necessarily related, but you could have cheaper labor as a way to improve CAC. Like if you paid your sales guys less or you paid the outbound team less, whatever it is, like that could decrease your CAC. And you could have cheaper software because that is also a cost. But I would say if I had to measure which of these is going to be the biggest levers, it's going to be these 3. And I rarely go and dip into these ones, to be very candid with you, because you have such order of magnitude changes you can make up here that sometimes this stuff becomes irrelevant. You lose morale for no real benefit. All right. So we talk about these 2 primarily for this book. So the 2 most powerful words in advertising are free and new. Use them. And so for us, if our objective is to lower CAC to the greatest degree possible, we want to get as many sales as possible for as little advertising dollars as possible. And so that means we want to convert the highest percentage of our audience. And so note that this is expanded content from the book, all right, that I just think is worth knowing. All right. So in $100 million leads, I talk about the value of giving something away for free. Some people don't want to do that, but let me explain why I think it's probably a good idea, especially if you're starting out. All right. So Dan Ariely, again, none of this is in the book. I had to cut this out. So Dan Ariely, who's a famous behavioral economist, psychologist, whatever, some science dude. All right. So he ran this thing called the Hershey Kiss test, and he would give away Hershey Kisses for free, or he'd give them away for a penny. Want to guess the difference in take rates on a college campus? 9 times more people took the free Hershey Kiss versus the 1 penny kiss. And he called this the penny gap. 9 times more. For those of you who have this like heeing and hawing of like, I don't want to give stuff away for free. Okay, don't. I think it dilutes my brand. Okay. There's a difference between giving products away for free and giving value away for free. And you have to understand the difference. And I have always subscribed to the Chick-fil-A model of this, which is either it's free or it's full price, never discounted. So if we mess something up, your sandwich and your whole meal's on us. But otherwise, it's premium and it's full price. But it's one or the other. There is no in between. And so if we want to make, let's say you're B2B, you make content that's free. You make lead magnets that are free. You provide value. You make software tools. You give them away for free. These are all things. If it's free versus $1, like, well, you're going to get shitty customers if you do it. Like, okay, cool. And for everyone who does want to listen, let's keep going. So we start for free because if they don't want it, it's because they, one, don't want it. And so that means you just change what you're giving away or how you describe it. So either the thing's wrong or how you describe the thing's wrong. The second reason somebody doesn't want your free thing is because they don't believe you. So it's too good to be true. So I'll give you a story about this. So there was a famous marketer who used to on the side teach marketing classes, and he talked about believability. And so he'd always run this test once a year where he'd run an ad that says, give me $100 and I will give you $1,000 back, call this number. And no one would call. And the main reason was no one believed it. It was too good to be true. Now, to be fair, people are dumber now. And so maybe it would work now, but when he would run these tests, we'd have to something, we'd have to run something, maybe, but like the point hopefully remains. All right. The next is I've seen this split test work more times than I care for, but if you advertise something that can help you make an extra $5,000 a month versus something that helps you make an extra $500 a month, this one gets more opt-ins. And so you're like, how could a lower result get more people to want it? And it's because more people believe it. Kind of interesting. The last reason that people don't want your free thing is because it's the wrong people seeing it. So it's like if I'm getting a free gym membership that's offered in Ohio, I'm never in Ohio, so I don't really care. And so if you're selling, fur coats to, Arizonans in the summer, probably not the right market. Even if it's like, hey, it's free, it's like, I'm just never going to wear it, right? Now, there's intrinsic value to fur coats, but you get the idea. All right. And so big three is that I like testing this because if you give stuff away for free, then you know that if people don't want it, you change what it is or how you describe it. They don't believe you can give it to them, or you're showing to the wrong people. All of these things are great feedback for us. So here are the pros of free, is that you will get more leads for free and you will get lower cost leads when you market or advertise with free. Here are the cons of free, is that the volume can be a double-edged sword if you're not prepared for it. So if you use some of the stuff in this book and this training, you're going to get way more leads than ever used to. And so what'll happen is you'll get way more people reaching out. And if you don't have the manpower or the time to reach out to all these leads, it's wasteful. And so what you then do is you can add friction. So you give something away for free and then add friction. And so then you can add qualifications, which could be like types of questions, the number of steps in a process. The targeting you do is also another form of friction. You can force them to consume stuff prior to taking another step. You can increase ad length. These are all things that you can do to increase friction. All right. So if you're looking at this and you're like writing this down, like these are the steps that you can do to add friction to any advertising process. And so for me, I don't want to make my ads or my offers worse. I want to make them better and then add more friction, because fundamentally the idea is like, I want to get as many people who want this thing to raise their hand and then put my filters in place so that only the people with money who are qualified come through. But I want the strongest magnet to get as many people as possible to take that first step. And then the filter to cut out as many of the people who I don't want in, that I got as extra eyeballs or extra clicks from my big, amazing, sexy thing. And so the other con of free is that sometimes you have people who have no intention of buying, right? This is the free brings broke people myth. Let me see if I actually dive into this deeper. Okay, I don't, so I'll tell you right now. So here's the free brings broke people myth. We tested this. So we have a tremendous amount of data on this concept. But in gyms, as you might imagine, because I came from the gym world, we'd have gym owners saying, I don't want to give away free service. They'd be like, it undervalues my brand, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. So what we did was we ran a test and we said 10 locations, run not free. So we're not going to use free in the advertising. And then you 10 locations, use free in the advertising. Everything else stays the same. Guess what happened? The non-free guys closed fewer sales than the free guys. But here's the real kicker. The close rate between the non-free people and the free people was the same. The best sales guys could close people who came in for free, and the best sales guys could close people who came in for not for free. And the shitty salespeople couldn't sell anybody who came in for not free, and the shitty salespeople couldn't sell anybody who came in for free. So the only thing that changed between these two things was the cost of the lead. And so these guys were paying way less per lead, so they made more sales. But the average close rate was the same. We tested this on 20 locations across different markets. So, and I had to do this every so often because it would rise up in the community like, we shouldn't be giving away free stuff. And I'd be like, dude, you can do whatever you want. I like to do math. And so if the math works, do it. If you don't want that, fine, do it your way. But don't also want a different outcome. So that is the free brings both people myth, is that rich people also like free stuff. And if it's what they want, they'll take a first step, because if you remove risk for me, I'll take a no risk. I'll take a flyer. I'll take a look. But then if you make a follow-up offer, foreshadowing, I might also buy, right? And so the closing percentage, the only difference was the lead cost between those locations. All right. So the bottom line is that if I had only one offer to make to convert, or my family would be killed, it would be a free offer. And I'd rather wade through crappy leads first and then figure out how to add friction rather than look at an empty inbox and an empty calendar waiting for my next client to show up. Think about this for one more moment. One of my big sayings that I've repeated internally in terms of advertising is create flow, then monetize, then add friction. So you create flow, which means give the big sexy thing away. The monetize is make sure that you're getting the right people on so you can sell them. Now, if it's not as efficient as you want, that's the third step. That's the optimization. That's the add friction. But even inefficiently, we're getting money. Cool. Now we plug the filters in. Now we optimize. So create flow, monetize, add friction. Those are the 3 steps I follow. And so the thing is you can't optimize an empty inbox. You can't optimize an empty calendar. You can't optimize a funnel that gets no clicks. And so you want to start with the flow first. All right. Next point in terms of how to improve CAC is, okay, so discounts and free. So these are more or less the same thing. I'm going to use these interchangeably throughout the book. They really just exist on a continuum. And so 100% discount is free. 99% discount is a discount. But fundamentally, it's just a continuum that this exists on. And so all the constructs I use in this book, if it says free, you can do it for $1. If it says $1, you can do it for $19. It works the same. All right. Fundamentally, you get something for less than it's worth, and the arbitrage between its value and what you get for it is the reason someone engages. My little tip here is, if you have something where it costs a lot of money for you as a business owner for somebody to miss an appointment. So let's say you're a dentist or a lawyer or you're a chiropractor, and it's your time that's being kind of given away and you charge a lot per hour or whatever, then you can have, it might be more advantageous for you to do discounts, because then you can get a card on file, which then makes sure that the people show up. You can charge no-show fees, things like that. And so if you have too many, like, you could solve it in 2 ways. You make it free. You have the first appointment with someone who's an underling, whose time doesn't cost as much. And then from there, you book the one with you, option A. Or option B, you charge some little mini discount thing so you can get a card, so you can charge enough show to make sure people show up. Both work. All right. So here's how I use discounts. I think the idea of a moderate discount is stupid. So the idea of like 10% off or 20% off, I think is dumb. I want insane discounts because 10% off doesn't get someone who would otherwise not opt in to now opt in. It doesn't change behavior. And so the only purpose of free or discount is to change behavior, is to get people who would not have taken an action to then take an action as a result of the free or discount or the arbitrage of value. All right. And so for me, if I'm going to do discounts, I want 50% or higher for something that people already know the value of for it to be effective. Now, the objective here is to get people who wouldn't otherwise respond to do so. All right. And if you're not giving away 20% off the top for the same number of people, because that just means you just lose money. The same number of people reply at 10 or 20% off, you're just losing a ton of profit. And so don't worry, I will show you how to do it without giving away the farm. All right, like you're like, wait, how am I gonna give away fits? Relax. That's what this whole thing's about. All right. So there's 4 ways to display discounts. Number 1 is that you can say the percentage off. All right. So let's say it's 87% off the first visit. All right, that would be, let's say it's $13 for my $100 first visit. It would be 87% off. Okay, fine. The next way would be the absolute amount off. So it'd be $87 off. Now in the example here, it's $181 off the first week, normally $210. Fine, that'd be 87%. All right, but it's a different way of displaying it. And you're like, why is he telling me this? Because you test these. So if you have your $100 thing, you run 87% off, you run $87 off, you then run the relative equivalent off, meaning what is that savings of value worth? All right. So like save a steak dinner, or less than going out to lunch. It's saying this, you want to frame it. Now, a different way of thinking about this is called a portion off, which I usually bucket into this, which would be like if I had, let's say, $100 a month subscription, and the thing was 12 months at $1,200. If I want to give 25% off, again, we're breaking rules here, but if I want to give 25% off, which would be 3 months, 4 months off, then that would mean that I could say, okay, this is $800. I could say it's 4 months free. I could say it's 25% off. I could say that you get $400 off. Those are all different ways of describing the exact same thing. I could also say, finally, it's $800, and above that, I would have $1,200 crossed off, which is simply displaying the discounted price next to the retail value. These are all different ways that you can display a discount. And so since this book is about monetizing traffic, you need to know the different guns you've got, the different weapons you've got, the bullets in the chamber that you can use as an advertiser to rotate through to get, one, more people to respond, but also to keep the advertising fresh. So like if 1 month you run 4 months free, and then next month you run $400 off, and then next month you run $800 crossed off $1,200, the market feels like you're changing your offer every month. But that way, internally for you, everything's the exact same. But it creates freshness in terms of the advertising. So how different do all those feel? They are all the same thing, just presented in different ways. And that's why we do this. So this is a little pro tip that I will give you. You probably can't read this. I'll just tell you what it says, which is that in order for a price off or a simply discounted price to work, the market has to have an understanding of what the price of that commodity or what that service is. And so if I say that I'm selling, an adjustment for a chiropractor for $29, that is effective because people know it costs more than that. They might not know how much more, but they just know that it's more, that that's cheap for that thing. If I say $20 teeth whitening at a dentist, that's going to get a lot of people who are super interested because people know it's way more than $20. I could probably say $100 teeth whitening and people would still say that's a great deal, right? Because there's an idea. Now, if you have an intangible product or a product that no one else sells, or it's a digital product, or you're like a creator and you want to launch something, if you then say it's this price off of this price, there's not a lot of value because the arbitrage is arbitrary. So you made it up. And so there's no pegged kind of marketplace price for the thing that you're selling. And so in those instances, that's where percentages off of retail, things like that work a little bit better than just saying like $17, course. It's like, well, that might be expensive for some people and cheap for other people, but for a teeth whitening thing, everyone knows it's cheap. And that's why if you are going to put that one price on there, you want to do it. This is like me differentiating for what business owner this works for, to be clear. All right. So here are the pros of discounts. So we talked about the pros of free stuff. Here are the pros of discounts. So one is that they're compliant for cheap leads, meaning you don't have to ever worry about like anybody saying that you did a bait and switch or anything like that. So if you charge people for stuff, then there's really nothing to say about it. All right. Number two is that you can actually collect some money, which is decent, right? I mean, some money is better than no money. Okay. People do come expecting to spend some money. So this, to be fair, this is my belief on this. I believe that the reason that the discounted people come in and buy more is because salespeople believe that. I don't believe it actually has any difference because when we talked about the free versus not free, the close rates were the same. So I think it's more that salespeople feel more convicted, but when I look at the data, it doesn't make much of a difference because I could equally say these people were just looking for cheap stuff. Works the same way. It just depends on what narrative you want to tell the salesperson. These work, and this is probably the most important one. These work exceptionally well as two-step sales. Here's why. If you get someone's card before they come in, then when they come in, you can then make the upsell and say, do you want to use the card you have on file? And so the key is that you have the card more than what you charge them for. So it's like you almost want to charge them for the cheapest possible thing to make sure the card works so that when they come in, you can have a seamless upsell into the really expensive thing. And so that's what creates the upsells that are smooth as butter, 0.5. Now, here's the cons of discounts. If you don't do it right, you don't ever give away the core service at a discount. You give away a broken off piece of the core service or something extra that you create and then create a huge discount on it. All right. And so you don't give away core offers or stuff that has hard costs unless you like really know what you're doing. You splinter out the thing. Now I talk about this at length in the $100 million offers course. I'm not going to break it down now, but basically lots of different components to your offer. You have lots of different features. You take one feature off. You say this feature is 99% off now. Great. That's where the discount is. And then you sell the rest of it. All right. And so whatever you break off, it has to be something that's well understood or it's not going to work. All right. That's kind of the thing I was talking about earlier. People have to have an understanding of it. The cons are you got the bargain hoppers, right? People who, complain about this, but really they're already, they're already customers. They're easier to upsell though than someone who's cold. So yeah. All right. So the objective is that attraction offers are the first step in the 4 prongs because if you don't have interest, you don't have anything, right? And so customer financed acquisition requires demand. And a big difference between CAC and GP, having low cost or free front ends is a strong way to do it. So lots of demand, free big front ends, drives more in. All right. So these things are going to be interchangeable throughout the remainder of these trainings. So if you see $19 chiropractor visit, it can be just as much a free chiropractic visit. The whole thing will work. But if you're like, you insist on doing this, fine, do that. If you insist on doing this, fine, do that. It does not matter. All the money models that I will show you can have free or discount interchanged and they will both work. Kaboom. These are the ways that you can improve your CAC. So with that being said, CAC is covered. Now we go into gross profit.